Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode here at MarjanSpace. We have a little bit of a turn of events, a little twist here of turning tables. As we know, the point behind all of these episodes is to share stories, to share, significant stories, inspirational stories, stories that can really get to our hearts and show us all that we're all really related and that we're all really one and the same. We had a funky idea and we decided to turn the camera on Marjan, my mother, who has a beautiful tale and a beautiful story that I believe needs to be told. Considering that she holds space for so many people, it's time that we hold space for her to express herself. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's see what we can discover about the Queen of MarjanSpace. Okay.
Now I'm scared.
For what? Now you know how we feel.
But yeah.
That's what they say for us. Once you get behind the casting table, you know exactly what the other person is going through too. It's not just you, the artist, who wants to get it. It's them who wants to find the artist.
True.
So in this case, someone who is working on her skills to extract stories, you need to be able to know your own story and to flesh it out for us. So I want to start from the very beginning. And I think that a lot of us children don't get to know our parents as children. Because you guys were children once at some point.
Oh, yes, we were.
And in spiritual journeys, we all try to get back to the child within. The child who is curious, the child who wants to learn, the child who is passionate and fun and excited. So can you give us an idea of who you were as a child?
Yes. I always say I was the kind that when the kids were playing outside, I'd be inside reading. I read a lot. And I was very stubborn. Had a mind of my own. And I think all those books and story, I read, it wasn't everything, but it was mostly fiction. And it was either horror stories to do with ghosts and Dracula and all of that, or it was a romantic story, which is, I think, two different different sides of stories.
Right.
I used to love ghost stories and, about reading about castles in England and with all these ghosts that they have and they're famous for. Or it was books about Barbara Cartland or Mills and Boone. And our time.
But can you let us know who those figures are, just so that we're aware?
Barbara Cartland was a very famous, if I'm not mistaken, she was a British book writer. And she would write about love stories. And it was always in the era of, the old, say, 18th century or 19th century era, where there were not princesses, but like duchess and dukes. She was British. Yeah. So it had to do with all these
very royal vibes.
Yes, very royal. And I would just, lose myself in these stories, and I always imagine myself being, in the role of the girls in there. Or on the other side, then we had Mills and Boone, which was a very modern kind of love stories, and it always had that twist where they hated each other, and then at the end they fall in love.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, so it seems like love was a big theme of yours,
yeah,
or connection, perhaps.
it was, yeah.
Um,
And then one more thing was, because I was good in English and in spelling, my grandfather got very hooked on Scrabble.
okay.
And he would have me sit and play with him Scrabble for hours and hours while everybody else was playing outside. And I was like, I want to go and play outside. But then, I had to have this obligation that, no, your grandfather wants to sit and play Scrabble. So you have to sit and play Scrabble with him. Well, and I think lots of my, the spelling and all that became good because of that.
Well, that's the thing. I was just thinking, do you think that he saw something in you that he wanted to nurture himself, that perhaps was a little different from people your age who were just, being kids?
Yeah.
Which is very important.
Yeah.
It is very important to have that. But then when we in our family recognize something in someone, I think, especially generationally, I think we want to nurture that and see it go somewhere. And some of us take it as a responsibility to do that, perhaps a little too strongly.
Okay.
But do you think that helped you linguistically?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, at the time, I wouldn't see it because, I was this kid who wanted to go and play with the other kids, with my cousins and all outside. Yet I had to sit down and play Scrabble with my grandfather.
It's a very old kind of game, but
yes, I mean, one thing, one quality of it was because, as I said, it was to do with my spelling and vocabulary, and it grew a lot more. I guess it helped it a lot to.
So wait, how many languages do you speak?
I speak 3 languages.
Okay.
So my mother tongue is Farsi, Persian. And then, of course, I'm a Bahraini and going to school in Bahrain and getting, brought up schools, Arabic language. Yeah. And then English is the second language in Bahrain. So 3 languages were merged in my childhood.
Right. But I think what's beautiful is that you're able to keep the integrity of every language without it leaking into the other. And what I mean about that is you rarely have an accent in any of these languages. You talk as if you're a native speaker.
Yeah.
So when you speak English, I don't really hear much of the other 2 languages coming in.
Right.
It's like an English speaker.
Okay.
When you speak Farsi,
it's
very Farsi.
It's because that's another thing that I always had. I don't want to call it perfectionism, but I always made sure that whatever I was doing, I would be doing it in a perfect way. Okay. Of course, having, speaking, and there are 3 different languages completely. And the grammar is completely different. And it's very hard. It was very hard growing up. Talking Arabic is a beautiful language, but it's very hard. It's a very hard language. So if you're growing up not having it naturally grow in your mind, what happens is then you have to translate whenever you're speaking it. So what I would do always, if I didn't know a vocabulary or a word, I would switch it into English immediately and bring it out in English, so that not to have a mistake in that language. So because to me it was a no-no to come out wrong with what I'm talking. Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
But having said that, I love the fact that with language comes culture. So I'm always proud of having the 3. Well, I can't say the culture of the because I learned English in school, And then I went and studied in the States. So I stayed there for 9 years. So I have a little bit of a culture of the States. I understand them. So I always feel proud that when I speak something and sometimes where you use slangs and you use words in all three languages, I know what's behind it. And it's so beautiful. You cannot imagine.
Yeah. So it just sounds like you love to understand, not just learn, but to understand where things come from, the roots of things. And, growing up as well and seeing you've always been someone who's been active. Yeah. Never just sitting. There's always something that you had to do. There was always something that you had to achieve. There was always something that you had to add to your toolbox. Where do you think that comes from?
Okay. I always wanted to prove something in my life. I always wanted to have an impact. And I keep saying that, is this it? I don't want to go without having an impact in this world. I'm not saying impact in a sense of being famous or becoming a millionaire. No, but having an impact on the lives of people that when I go, they remember me and say, oh, she was a kind person. She did a lot of good things and she had an impact in the society. So I guess because of that, I've always looked for something to do, something to learn. And I'm sort of like a risk taker. I like to take risks. Anything that comes by me and I get interested in it, I like to try it. Even though after a while, if it doesn't happen or I lose interest in it, fine. But at least I did it. I tried it. Where does that come from? I have no idea.
Okay. Might just be something your soul has always been doing.
Probably.
An innate quality of yours. But regardless of that, how many degrees has that left you with?
Oh, God.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So the first one was I got a scholarship. At those times, we were very lucky that the government would give scholarships. And I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to the States. And of course, in those days, it was either you go study engineering or medicine. And for me, medicine was out of the question. It just didn't click with me.
It was for me too.
Yeah, I did not click. So it was engineering. Oh, you're good in math. Oh, you're good in algebra. You're good. You have to go study engineering. Okay, great. I go off. I study, I start university. It was in the States. I'm in engineering school. The first year, I realized that, oh my God, I hate this. But then you're stuck with it because if you don't continue, you have to come back. And I didn't want to come back. I wanted to get a degree. I didn't want to fail in my parents' eyes, I guess. Although I realized at the university, because it was in UT Austin, University of Texas in Austin, the language school was one of the best. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could go into linguistics.
Interesting.
Yes. And learn another language or two other languages. French and Spanish were really big in my mind. But then, of course, it was too much to take linguistics, language, and engineering. So I decided just to go with the engineering.
Okay.
So I graduated. I came back and I did work in the engineering sector for 15, 16 years. Never liked it. But then, hey, we had to make a living.
Right.
got married, kids. We have to make a living, and the kids have to grow up and all that. So you were talking about the degrees.
So let's get into your master's now.
Yeah. So what happened was, I think it was around 2002. So we're talking about, now if I graduated in 84, 2002 would be another 18 years. After that. And I had never thought of going and getting a master's degree. But you all were in school and you were doing all well. And then I came across a workshop, and it was in Geographical Information System. And I really love, the only thing that really clicked with me in the engineering arena was the cadastral and topographic maps. So this geographical information system, when it came by me in a workshop, it clicked. I said, oh, okay, I would love to go back now and maybe get my master's degree. And it wasn't for work. It was just for me. I just wanted to develop myself more. So I went into that. I got the master's degree. It was pretty hard, though, I'll tell you, because going back to school after 18 years, it's not easy.
And then all those problems that you had going to school first come back. And you have to deal with all of those issues too. You know, everything is energetic.
Yeah. And not just that. Now it was the only thing that really I thought it was so beautiful was that computers were in.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't consider that.
So now internet is there, computers are there, and a whole new world is in front of us, so different than when we went to school, when we went to uni. And I didn't have to go to library anymore. Just click and get a book. Click and okay, it had its downside because then you would get lost in all the information. So there was like a two-sword thing to it. But it was hard, you know. Kids were at home, there's a husband, and there's a house to run, and I was working. And then I wanted to get my master's degree also. Right. The only thing that I started learning about myself was the perseverance and the stubbornness that I had. If I wanted something, I put something in my mind, I would go after it, I would get it.
Yeah.
And I would do it. So that was the first master's degree. Okay. And then when I graduated, it was like, oh my God, no way. Study again? No way. This is it. 2 years went by, and by this time I decided to come out of work. That's another story.
Sure.
We will not go into that.
Right. Let's stay on track.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, nothing is happening. I'm not getting a job. So and Marjan can't sit at home, do nothing.
Right.
So, okay, let me look at another degree. Now I had gone back to studying. I found myself it was easier for me to study.
You had more time as well, right? To be able to do this.
Oh, yes. So what happened was, and it was between another master's degree or a PhD. And for me, it has to be something unique. It's not just a degree. I have to add something to what I have and add something to the world in the research that I'm giving out, in the project that I do. So nothing clicked in the PhD arena. And then all of a sudden, one day I see in the newspaper, there's this engineering management program that's coming to Bahrain from George Washington University. And it clicked. I said, okay, maybe it's a sign to go back to engineering, but the management part of it.
Okay.
So I started that program. Halfway through that program, I came across knowledge management.
Mm-hmm.
So this professor comes over from George Washington University and gives us a course in knowledge management. And so now we're talking in 2012.
Okay.
So 2012, 9 years ago, it was like, what? Knowledge management? How can you manage knowledge? What is that? I got into it. I got very interested, and that's where it took me into my PhD, which is knowledge management and innovation management. And it clicks with me always because it's something unique. I like always to be in an area where it's unique, new. No one has done it before, at least in our area. So I got into the PhD.
That's amazing.
Program.
And now we have MarjanSpace because of it.
And we have MarjanSpace because of the knowledge sharing. And it, PhD is another journey. It's a journey. It absolutely is a journey. It opened up so many aspects in my life. Relationships, lots of ups and downs, even self-development. I started, because of all the stress that I was going through, for researching and studying and all that, I needed to calm my mind down. And that's where it took me into meditation.
Right.
Because I needed the calmness for my mind and all that to get through that period. And all of that happened in that 6-7 years. So that journey taught me a lot of things because we used to think that holding knowledge is power. Holding it to yourself is power. While actually in that journey, we started learning that sharing knowledge is power.
Absolutely. My
knowledge with your knowledge, with everybody else's knowledge gives new knowledge.
Absolutely.
And that is where innovation happens.
I love that.
And that is where I thought, now that I'm coming towards the end of the journey of my PhD, what's next was, what if I have a place where everyone can come and gather and really meet each other and we share our stories. And this is where...
Establish connections.
Yeah.
And I think you really touched on a very interesting and a very important point, which is sharing, right? And connecting. And this is really the new paradigm. This is really the new society that we are introducing all over the world, which is not holding back anymore because we're expecting something in return.
Right.
It's giving freely that is going to bring something in return.
The more you give out, the more it comes back, because when you're giving out, you open up the space for other people to share what they have with you also.
Right.
And that's where the learning happens.
Right.
And the more knowledge happens.
Right.
So it's just amazing.
It really is. And again, it's important to understand why we do that. We're all human beings. We're all trying to survive. So we're all looking out for ourselves. But we've reached a point, I think, in our evolutionary development where we no longer have to look out for ourselves individually. We have to look out for our communities.
It's a collective thing.
Exactly.
It's a collective humanity now.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've reached a point where we can do that.
Yeah.
And it's important to take some time to allow that shift to happen in our minds, to feel safe to share rather than feel like we're vulnerable in a negative way.
Yeah.
Because
before it was like, oh, if I have this knowledge and I give it out, it's gone and it's not mine anymore. Right. But the fact behind it is that when you give out that knowledge and you share it, others share their knowledge with you. And so you learn new things that add up to the knowledge that you have.
Right.
And instead of losing something, you're gaining a lot more.
Right. And essentially, you still retain what you gave.
Oh, yeah.
It's in your mind.
Yeah.
It's coming from
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
So it's really up to us as individuals to make something out of what we have instead of thinking, oh, it's ours. So that's it, And I think that's really a wonderful journey. I do want to touch on something else that you kept saying when you were talking, which is things click with you.
Okay.
And, me being home as well, you have great taste in art. I think I mentioned this a few times. And our house is full of it.
Okay.
And every time you explain it to anyone, it's like, I don't even understand what the paintings mean. It just clicks with me and I bring it. So again, what does it mean when you say this clicks?
I see a message in there that is talking to me. I see a beauty in it that I love. Now, whether they are a famous artist, not a famous artist, it's the painting itself. It's talking to me. And that's where I go out and buy it.
Right.
I don't care, who the artist is, if they are famous, if they're not famous. It just clicks. And that is why the collection that I have in the house, and I have also noticed lots of people when they come and they say, oh my God, your house looks like a gallery. Yeah. It was never intended.
Right.
But I guess because of the, our touch being in the things that I decided to buy, it gives it that coziness and that factor that it's has something to do with me.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it, but
can I perhaps try to explain it?
Yeah.
As an artist, I think it's their connection with their own source, which again is essentially all of our. We come from the same source. Right. Whatever they have created through them and birthed through them, connecting to that source is connecting with your source.
Yeah.
So it's a familiarity that makes you feel home, makes you feel at home. It brings in that higher level of energy into the physical space.
Yeah.
And suddenly we are building this collective where we're all the same person.
So, yeah.
And we're all
connected.
Exactly.
We're all connected.
There's a universal brain we're all connecting to. And every time we recognize that someone has done that, we want to reward it. And we want it to be around us because we want to do that too, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think again, you said that you never intended the house to look like a gallery. It just happened. And when you were describing your journey with your degrees, what's more important is the journey and not the outcome. Because it's the journey that holds the lessons, right?
Lots of people ask me like, okay, now you've studied this. What are you going to do with it? For me, it was never, okay, I studied it, now I have to go work in that area. It just added things to me.
Right.
It added things to my knowledge, to my development, self-development. And it has made me what I am today.
Absolutely.
Whether I would love to share it, and that's, I think, what I'm doing right now. I'd love to share it with everybody else. The fact that knowledge never stops, the fact that we never stop learning, to me is very important because going through the journey of PhD, when you come across doctors and professors, lots of them think that, becoming a doctor or professor and all that's it. They know it all. And then on the other hand, you see those doctors and professors that are so humble that when they come into the class, they say, listen, we are here to teach you, but we are here to learn from you also. So that is what I got from it, that we never stop learning. That's the beauty of it. You know, so it's not an ending journey. It's a beginning journey.
Remember that TED Talk you once told me about? I forget what the term was, about someone who's interested in a lot of things.
Multipotentialist.
Multipotentialist.
I call myself a multipotentialist.
You know, and I connect with that too. I feel like I'm a very curious person who likes to explore anything that intrigues him, and not necessarily become a master of it, but to add it to my toolbox. And to find connections.
Yes.
And that brings out the innovation.
Yeah.
So I think when you discover that, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. A lot of people also are like that.
Yeah.
And it's not a weakness.
At
it's
all.
It's not a weakness.
Although people were, you know, at one point people were telling me, like, why are you jumping from one thing to another? That's not a good thing.
Right.
And it was giving the doubt in my mind
Of course.
Yes, Marjan, why are you doing this? Why can't you focus on just one thing and all that? But now I see the beauty of it is all of that jumping here and there has made me what I am today, with all this that I have in my mind that I can share with everyone. And I love trying new things. I just love it.
Yeah. And it's safe to say it's because you listen to your instinct.
Yes. Yeah.
Really, that's the click, right? That's when the instinct comes in.
Yeah.
That's the message. And I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
Don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
But something's talking to me. I think that's beautiful. I think that this is a great place to end this conversation too. And let's see where MarjanSpace takes you, takes us, and takes Bahrain as a community in itself. And I think there's a lot of ideas here waiting to be born. There are a lot of ideas that have already been born. And it's truly a gem, you know, when you first came up with it.
I hope so.
Well, right?
Yeah.
That's the confidence that we need from you as a leader to know it. Yeah. Because we see it.
Yeah. I love it.
You know?
I love it. I love the energy in it. And lots of people have told me when they walk in and they say, oh, there's that positive energy in here that is, and so I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have the place.
You're lucky, but it is also an extension of your energy. Yeah. And that's something I think that we, as human beings, have to be comfortable talking to ourselves like that in a very positive light, where, yes, we're humble, but humility comes from confidence. It doesn't come from insecurity.
Yeah.
So be humble and confident in knowing that this is an extension of you, and to maintain what you give so that you can keep giving to us. So thank you.
Thanks, Habibi, for giving this opportunity for me to talk.
Absolutely.
A little bit about some things that were, in my mind, but the opportunity never came up.
Well, thanks for giving me a chance to learn more about you, because it allows me to learn more about me.
Okay.
We're part of the same bloodline. And I think we need to normalize getting to know our parents and our grandparents on a deeper level. Yeah. And again, to share that information. So thank you.
Thank you.